Build compelling real-time apps quickly and scale them globally with the PubNub real-time network. Only PubNub delivers the core building blocks needed for any real-time application. Find out for yourself by signing up for free today. Visit pubnub.com. Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing, the most trusted podcast dedicated to the new business of location. It is time for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. This is episode number 148. We're recording this live Saturday morning. That's September 21st, 2013. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv, located in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. For those of you taking note, that is the nation's capital. That's the capital of Canada. And with me, from the capital of Ontario...
Toronto, that is.
Yes.
It's Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association.
Yes. Welcome back, Asif, to Canadian soil.
I was in Europe this week, so I was, I was in Amsterdam for
Is it one of those, right?
a cup of coffee with PJ Verhoff, who runs our chapter over there, just to catch up, and en route to Cologne in Germany. So was there for the App Days conference and the official launch of the LBMA in Germany. So we had a Berlin chapter going, and now we basically are launching across all the German-speaking world, Austria, Switzerland, etc. And yeah, so it was interesting because in Germany things are a little different than they are over here. Legal system's a little bit different, so we can't just set up chapters. Apparently, we've been told that we have to have a formal legal company.
You got busted?
Germany. A little bit, yeah. So now we have this legal company, and there's this whole little process, and you got to have all these founding members sign off on this to form an association in Germany and whatnot. But it's done. So we're there. So I had to go there for that. And all is well. And then on my way back, I went to Glasgow, Scotland, and spent some time there with Callum Haddo, who I think you've met or you've talked to as well. Yep. So he's a guy who's been doing a lot of research as part of his university thesis on location-based marketing. And he introduced me to a guy named Mark Sorsa Leslie, who is from Scotland, spent a lot of time in Finland, just came back to launch a company called Basewarp, which is going to be our app discussion today, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, so that was last week.
How long were you there for? Like a cup of coffee here, a cup of coffee there, and then you flew back in time for this?
I left Sunday and came back on, Thursday.
So, and that's just the beginning. Yeah. We've talked about Steve's crazy travel schedule as he goes and becomes, he's the ambassador of location. So he goes around the world and does these things, but you've got an even crazier week this week.
Yeah, this week's insane. So I came home Thursday. I was home basically yesterday, Friday, and here we are Saturday morning. I leave again tonight, Saturday night. And then go off to San Francisco for the digital marketing and big data exchanges, which are two side-by-side events running together. So I'm speaking at that on Sunday, and then jet off to Calgary, and then the drive up to Banff for the cross-media event up there. Do that, and then hop on a plane down to Scottsdale, Arizona, on Tuesday for the food service industry, the giant FS Tech and FSMU events, Food Service Social Media Universe, and all of that, which is going to be crazy. I mean, this is just like a massive industry show. And then back here on Wednesday.
That's all by Wednesday.
Wednesday night I come home because I'm speaking Thursday in Toronto for the IDEX conference, which is the Design Institute conference. So they look at store design and store experience and all this other stuff.
Asif, man, I don't know how you do it, but
I'm out of breath just thinking.
Yeah,
I'm out of breath just thinking about it.
Well, yeah, exactly, and I'm tired, but I got to know, like, very quickly about Europe. Is there anything that grabbed your attention? We're going to talk about Basewarp, but was there anything that really grabbed your attention? From the last time that you were there to this time, is there any industries that have accelerated?
Well, I think overall we're seeing, sort of a similar path towards, adoption of location-based services. The German market, where I spent the most time on this trip, is, there was a lot of cool technologies in the room. There were some exhibitors. There was a lot going on. The guys from Indoors that we've covered in the past, the Vienna-based guys, they were at the show. And one of the things that was interesting, as I was talking to Bernd, the guy who is one of the founders there, he was saying that they're starting to see some success around their indoor location technology in government and public service situations. So like safety applications, right, and things like that. So it's not just all retail, and you can see how that would work in kind of the German world, right? Like that's they're much more focused on these kind of corporate big data, enterprise applications, the SAP type stuff of the world than they are consumer, crazy stuff. So that was nice to see. The Google Glass guy, there was a guy from Google, a developer, third-party developer that builds an SDK around Google Glass. They gave a really good presentation on kind of use cases and the potential of where this stuff's going.
Made you a convert?
Yeah, I mean, I was wearing it, walking around, and I'm impressed. Like it's, I'm not sure I'd wear it every day, but I see the functionality and the use case of how it would benefit me every day.
Yeah,
it's the form factor that bothers me, but the thing is super comfortable to wear. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's really interesting in terms of what you can do with that type of interface, that you don't have to be down here looking at your device, typing anything in. It's all in front of you all the time. It just, I don't know, it makes sense.
Well, this is I mean, we're entering this world one way or another. The form factor is going to be something, whether, I'm just going to wait for the embedded contact lens, right? So you put it on your contact lens. And
it exists, though. Like he showed that in his presentation.
We did.
It's there. The only thing that's not there with the contact lens is the audio piece, right? Mm-hmm. So, but the visual part of Google Glass exists in contact lens already. It's so obviously now we have to figure out how we do the Bluetooth from the contact lens to the earpiece, right? And then you're good to go.
Just why not? Just instead of going around and connecting with Bluetooth, just go right through my eye into my brain. You might as well jack me up through Google.
Yeah,
I'm a walking Google.
Yeah,
well, it's fascinating. I mean, I've played with the Google Glass, and you know what? The experience is great. Like the notion of it, right? But then as you're walking and you pass yourself in a mirror, like I'm not a vain guy, clearly, but when I pass myself in the mirror, I just looking like I had that moment where I'm like, who's that dork? Oh wait, that's me. Right? I can't get over that. Right? So I think that there's got to be something a little bit more, and the price point of $1,500.
Well, but that's only the developer piece edition, right? So he was saying that from all indications, the commercial, like public version of this thing will be available by the end of this coming first quarter, and the price point that they're talking about is $400.
Yeah, but that's still more expensive than the glasses I used to see.
Yeah, but compare that to buying an iPad or or an iPhone or whatever. Like it's around the same thing,
comparable.
Right?
Yeah,
it's comparable. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think that more and more people are going to try this out, and if it takes, I think that's what it takes. It's like this grassroots marketing effort to get one person at a time to wear them, and then you'll become a convert. But then don't go past a mirror. Buy it before you go past a mirror, because then you'll have buyer's remorse if you do that after. Fascinating. Yeah. All right. Well, see, if we got a jammed show, like I think we should have, just an auxiliary episode just talking about some of the observations that you've seen. Like, so we've got these stories, right, that we go through every week.
Yeah.
But boy, it would be great to just sit down and talk about what the changes in the industry, and maybe we could do that sometime when you're not traveling as much, right? Or when you are traveling, it'll be a good break. But we definitely have a jam show. We got our app of the week, 6 great stories. Our guest today is David Shalaby, who is from TapTrack. We've mentioned him a couple of times and their company a couple of times in previous episodes. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the death of NFC, as well as certainly a little bit more about TapTrack itself. A great resource, a Lowe's case study, which is amazing. I love hearing the successes about indoor location like Lowe's, and I think that these guys are certainly aggressive. We put them up in that scale, right, of companies, retail companies that are starting to adopt mobile in a serious way. And all that preceded by this Mobile Minute by Chuck Martin. This is really in relation to another story that we're going to come up a little bit later around B2B and then the emergence of mobile in B2B. Chuck was explaining very early on that he would talk to B2B companies and they would say mobile won't have an impact on my business. And lo and behold, a couple of years after he started talking to these companies, B2B businesses are finally emerging in the mobile market. I think they're a couple of years behind, as we'll see in a couple of stories here. But this is Chuck Martin in our Mobile Minute talking about B2B finally waking up to mobile. It's time for another Mobile Minute. Chuck, what is going on in the B2B world when it comes to mobile? We never talk about this.
Yeah, B2B. I've been here for, I can't even remember how long. All these B2B people say, well, mobile doesn't affect me because we're a B2B, and mobile is really just for consumers, which just strikes me as making absolutely no sense at all, because the same people who are doing B2B are also consumers. So they're having these expectations from mobile, and they transfer those expectations to their B2B environment. And now there's a new study up for Intersec by Vance and Bourne, the research firm, and they interviewed 400 senior IT execs, decision makers from merchants, B2B people, and they found that 51% already use mobile as a sales channel and 2/3 plan to, and this is in the B2B world. And what's driving this is an enormous percentage, like 81% see customer demand and expectations. That's back to that consumer drive in terms of what's driving it. And 2/3 look at basically crediting mobile device use.
So obviously there's a huge opportunity in B2B. They didn't know it. You saw it. Where are the opportunities for entrepreneurs to play in that space these days?
Well, what they need to do is, and they're going to start doing this, they're actually going to be using B2B via mobile, just like they're using it traditional online, except it'll be real time, so people can place orders by phone, by tablet, so it's not just phones. They can track their inventory by phone, and this is all B2B behind the scenes stuff, and that's where a lot of the big money is.
So that is Chuck Martin and our Mobile Minute. We're going to be covering a little bit more about B2B further on in the show. I think it's the third story of the show with a company called ExactTarget. So before we get into the stories, what are we doing? We're talking about this app. You had an opportunity to visit Scotland. It was in Scotland, right?
It was in Scotland, yeah.
Edinburgh. So talk about this. It's Basewarp?
Basewarp, yeah. So this is, as I mentioned, a bunch of guys that spent most of their time in the last few years in Finland, around Nokia and all that kind of world. They're Mark Sorsa-Leslie, the guy that I sat down with, is from Scotland. He's moved back basically to launch this company. And it's really interesting. So they basically built a, let's call it a test version of this for the Edinburgh Touring Festival, which is a big conference that happens every year over there. Touring as in the guy, the programming language guy. When I saw this app, I just got really excited because how much I value the combination of location and content, right? For me, there's so many deal sites and coupons and this, that, and the other thing, which, doesn't really motivate me or get me excited personally. I know that works for some people, but I like this idea of combining location and content, and that's kind of where Basewarp sits. So when I saw this, I was really excited. And it reminded me a little bit of Broadcaster and Spun, that we've talked about on this show, Scott Lindenbaum's companies over in New York, where you would leave an audio message or a video message tagged to a location. So it has elements of that. It has elements of Banjo and other things like that aggregate content from other services in terms of photos and videos and things like that. But what's a little bit different about Basewarp is you can create and you can create groups, if you will, and leave content publicly for everybody, privately for specific groups. It can be temporal, so you can say this content only lasts here, tied to this location for the next hour, and then it's gone. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with this, and it's just a really, really interesting way to bring content. And then it's got push notifications built into it as well. So if you are part of a group, and there's certain pieces of content that are important to you, those can be get notifications when there's new content being pushed into that group. So they call these things bubbles. Like, you create these bubbles and leave a bubble there with this content. So it really, really fascinating way to combine some elements of some things that I think have already been successful in many respects.
How do they? And this is available on Android. And if you're interested, you go to Basewarp, BASEWARP.com. Yeah, how do they? Did you talk to them about how they're going to socialize this? Because it's always one of these things that this is based on volume. Always, these plays about location and content. They have any idea how much it's going to cost them?
I mean, well, it's kind of like with the touring festival. They don't see this as mass consumer adoption per se. They see this as tied to events, tied to convention centers, tied to properties where there's things going on where they encourage you to download this app as part of the fan experience at a concert, as part of the being an attendee at a trade show. You download this app to create content, to experience content that's part of that event. So it's not like something you just go out and everybody's doing this. I mean, I think that would be great. And I think you will get some of that, but I think they're, in terms of distribution and creating awareness around this, I think it is about tying this to events that are happening in general.
Very cool. Android only, basewarp.com, BASEWARP.com. Great app. I look forward to getting that on iOS. Certainly, within iOS 7 and the new iPhones and those things would be good timing for them to get on to this.
Coming soon.
Platform. Yeah. That is the app of the week. Go to basewarp.com. We're going to jump into the top 3 stories. Then we are going to actually break these stories up with Dave Shalaby from TapTrack and finish off with the last 3 stories. So the first one this week. I never really understood this, the reach of Facebook, but everybody's trying to understand how they can leverage Facebook as an advertising platform to drive more revenue. So they launched something called the Telco Outcome Measurement. This is Facebook, in order to be able to literally, they are the number one mobile platform when it comes to activity on mobile. So they're basically bringing this anonymous data into, obviously into Facebook, and then they're going to ultimately help telcos and carriers to convert and sell people new devices as a result of this, and services as a result of this data. And they, the numbers are staggering around how the conversion rates when it comes to, the ads on the right-hand column versus the ads in your stream versus the ads in mobile. And mobile is right now winning. But I always thought that, listen, this is about converting people and getting them to buy devices. But for me, I always thought, hey, you know what? Why is this important? And aren't purchasers tied to contracts, length of contracts, and isn't it just about when the device is launched? That's really when all of a sudden people convert, right? That seems to be like the iPhone 5S launched this past week, and that's really where people are waiting for it. So I don't know how much carriers can use Facebook data to convert somebody midstream in a contract. You know what I mean? This seems a little out of scope for Facebook.
Yeah, this isn't the first thing I think about when I think about Facebook, for sure. It kind of struck me as a little bit strange, but they have the data. They're looking for ways to start to generate revenue off this data. And if carriers are willing to pay them, then, hey, let's take the money. Now, some of the numbers are really interesting. So, they had in here that 90% of people who made a purchase after seeing an ad on the social network never actually click on the ad.
Right.
That's kind of interesting. So, okay, so this is only about impressions, on Facebook, apparently. I was a bit shocked by that data. But, yeah, I think this is – I kind of agree with you. I buy a new device because I want a new device. I'm not influenced by an ad on Facebook.
Especially not like when I'm looking at it on my mobile device, to go and be inspired to go into a carrier store or something and go and buy another mobile device. I think this is it's just odd, right?
Yeah, unless you can take that data and you can this is anonymous though. So I don't unless you could tie this to individuals and say, hey, we want to move you from Android to iOS, so here's and we know your most of your devices are over here, and we're trying to convert your last 2 devices over to iOS. Well, yeah, it's so I struggle with this thing. So it's definitely outside of the realm of the normal Facebook for me. But like I said, if they can package up some data and the carriers are willing to pay for it, then hey.
Well,
kudos to Facebook.
And that's a weird. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Let me describe this to you. It says at the core of telco outcome measurement is Facebook's mobile reach, which provides us with aggregate and anonymous information about devices, operating systems, and carriers. We know that. From this starting point, we can establish test and control groups to determine how and when an ad on Facebook correlates to certain actions, such as a group of people switching to new handsets, tablets, or carriers. Like those aren't things that happen as a result of ads. I don't see that happening. I don't jump from my carrier Rogers to Bell simply because an ad pops up. And how many times does Bell spam your mailbox, your physical mailbox, with "Come back, we love you," and it doesn't spur you to action? So it's a weird thing that they're doing here. It's a misuse of probably good data.
I'm with you, man. I mean, maybe we're the minority or something. Like we're not influenced by our device purchases are influenced by ads on Facebook. Like,
no.
First of all, I'm like hardly on Facebook.
Yeah.
To begin with, so. Ads over there aren't really influencing me whatsoever.
No.
I don't know.
Well, and if you see all the ads for the BlackBerry Z10, you quickly realize that they don't work, right? Because nobody's buying that product.
Full warning to the audience today. Like Rob and I, this isn't the positivity show, right?
No. So that's why I'm bringing up BlackBerry. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All right,
what did they announce yesterday? They're canning 48,000 or 4,800 jobs again.
They're 50% of their workforce, 50% of their operating costs, and $1 billion loss. At the same time that Grand Theft Auto 5, I think it was Auto 5 generated $1 billion in revenue in 3 days.
Crazy.
Yeah, wrong.
Crazy.
Yeah, I feel for RIM, but I don't because their CEOs are a bunch of asses, right? Those guys, co-CEOs. Anyways. Let's go set the tone. Second story. See, Zipments.
Zipments. So this is a Chicago-based company. I think, yeah, Chicago-based.
No, New York-based company.
Oh yeah, they're funded by Chicago Ventures. Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah.
Raised $2.25 million from these guys called Chicago Ventures, which is part of a thing that was called the I2A Fund. For those who track these sorts of things. I mean, basically, it's a mobile app for finding a courier near you in New York. It's only available in New York at the moment, New York and Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah, and moving into Chicago soon. Yes.
Yeah, because that's where they were originally founded. So, anyways, it's a mobile app, and they hook you up with local couriers that are near you in New York and Grand Rapids, Michigan. And this is supposed to be amazing because couriers are hard to find, and you need one.
It is.
And the key here is that this isn't just anybody like Joe picking up your stuff and delivering it for you. This is like professional couriers. So they said, they liken this to. They said this is the Uber of the courier business, as opposed to the Lyft, which is an Uber competitor that uses just regular driver Joes. Just anybody to regular driver Joes instead of professional drivers. Yeah.
Okay. So
this is just like, really, like, we need this. Why?
So basically, Chicago Ventures
doesn't FedEx and UPS have like couriers, yes. And don't they have mobile apps?
And the Canadian Postal Service is now pushing their value as the gift distributor for Canada. This is basically Chicago Ventures being duped into investing in a courier business. This to me is what is wrong with this. This is not about same day delivery, which is what the label is, because couriers have been doing same day delivery since couriers were invented, right? Bike couriers in your city.
Yeah.
Remember that Kevin Bacon movie where he was a bike courier back in the 80s? Like this is not new. This is absolute bubble bullshit. I cannot believe these morons invest in a courier company. Like, congratulations to Zipments, man, because wool pulled over everybody's eyes. We are not a courier company. We are the
Take
Uber.
your money and run, man. Take your money and run.
Yeah, exactly. Like, run the hell out of town.
Yeah.
Morons. This is a moronic story, right? You got to invent something like, I'm going to be like the first mobile carpet cleaner, right? And we're going to do a whole app
here's what I don't
get.
Here's what I don't get. Like, like there's some serious players in this investment group.
Yeah,
Like this is like not idiots, right? I mean, these are people who've made lots of money. I mean, you got
First
the
Mark.
New York City Economic Development Corporation has money in this. Like what?
It's like I just. I don't even know what to say to this. Like, good on Zipments for doing this. If they do something that's different than other than actually taking a package and routing it to a courier in the city, like, I don't even know why they're only in New York. This cannot be hard to actually say, hey, we've got 30,000 couriers, because that's exactly what it is. And oh, by the way, we can aggregate all those 30,000 couriers. And if you need something shipped in the same day, we can actually, you come into our app, we take a percentage of the sale, and we do a referral fee to any of these couriers. That's what they're doing. They charge $10. And it's just crazy. And they're only in New York, and they're moving to Chicago. This is idiocy. $2.25 million. And I've seen great companies that are innovative, that are changing the world from the ground up, who can't get $10 from these stupid investors. And they put money into this. Like, shame.
Yes.
Shame. I always think back to the heyday where this great story during the dot-com bubble, where this guy who was a convicted felon in New York moved out to California, raised about $30 million, hired the Rolling Stones to play at his launch party for $20 million, and they didn't. There was no correlation between this. He spent 20 of his $30 million on his launch party, and I think of that whenever I think of something like Zipments. Same day shipping is the same as a courier service. There's no value there.
Yeah.
Zero value. Man.
All
If
right.
you're interested, go to zipments.com. Tell them we say hi and congratulations.
All right.
All right.
Number 3.
Our third one. So, Asif, why don't you take this? ExactTarget adding location, their location-based platform. This is something that they're going to launch in the first quarter of 2014.
Yeah, so for me, this is a sort of good news, bad news kind of story a little bit. It's ExactTarget's big company, part of Salesforce.com, and they're launching a whole bunch of new location-based features. So you got MMS, push notifications, a whole bunch of stuff going on in here. Like geofencing and whatnot. All layered into their platform. So this is awesome in a sense because. I think we've been struggling for a long time to figure out how this stuff comes into the B2B, sort of enterprise application world. And I've always felt that, like Salesforce and things like that, makes sense to include location-based capabilities. Like, hey, you're out on a sales call in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and you're looking for a courier. And, why not send a push notification through to your sales guy out there saying, hey, that deal you just signed, why don't you go find Zipments over here and send the package to the head office. I'm kidding. But that ability to have these location-based features integrated into big enterprise software like Salesforce, like email messaging platforms and things like that make a lot of sense. I guess my surprise is that it's taken this long to get there, and we're not even there yet. It's first quarter of 2014. But the feature set and the capability that they're talking about makes tons of sense.
Yeah, location-based messaging, rich push, MMS, something that they call Journey Builder integration, which is interesting, which they define as to interact with customers when they are most likely to convert, purchase, or engage with your brand by sending personalized content via real-time SMS, MMS, push, rich push, and mobile email. This is really what Chuck was talking about at the opening piece about mobile on the Mobile Minute, was that B2B, it's almost like they're 2 years behind the rest of like the consumer side when it comes to mobile integration. So, RJ Taylor, who is the VP of mobile products, says mobile is fueling a transformation in business that holds incredible opportunity for companies to connect with their customers in entirely new ways. Like, that would have been revolutionary to say 4 years ago. It's ho-hum to say now, but maybe in the B2B market. And I think the only challenge that I have here is that they're using the language that a lot of mobile marketers used a number of years ago, which was, we're going to push things to you. We're going to get you to come in. And he finishes that quote by saying, with the addition of location-based messaging and multimedia messaging, which maybe I've never really been pushed any multimedia message that has been effective, especially when I'm concerned about bandwidth stuff. But multimedia messaging was a buzzword 2.5 years ago. It's not anymore, especially when it comes to a marketing piece. But he says that, location-based messaging and multimedia messaging to our leading mobile product lineup, ExactTarget continues to pioneer the technologies marketers need to deliver a true one-to-one experience that builds customer loyalty and drives sales. Like, that is a whole bunch of buzzword that really didn't make sense back then, doesn't make sense now.
I think the thing you have to keep in mind here, though, is these are companies whose platforms are used by thousands of enterprises today.
Yeah.
And when you're in that business, part of that deal is as much as you're trying to find new customers, is the biggest thing is to try and keep the ones you have.
Big challenge.
And the battle that you're fighting is to make sure that you're providing new feature sets that provide the things that those existing customers want to do, and try and keep them from moving to some new startup emerging guy that's going to try and take that guy away. So for me, that's where this kind of stuff sits, and the fact that they're building this into big enterprise stuff makes a lot of sense to me. And going back to my trip over to Germany in the opening comments, like, this kind of stuff is the kind of stuff that markets like that I think love, because it's about just tying in location into everyday ways of doing business. Like, this isn't, like from a, B2B perspective, this isn't, about, privacy issues with consumers worried about their data, right? Like, this is, stuff that, we actually use because, this is what our company wants us to do.
Yeah, and I think that the B2B market emerging, and I'm definitely not picking on ExactTarget, and I think that we're going to start to see this much more, and there's huge opportunities. You heard Chuck talk about.
We got lots of other people to pick on today.
Exactly. So this is good, and I mean, I think if you're interested go and take a look at ExactTarget.com. My only caveat is, listen, never lead with technology. If you're a marketer, never lead with technology, and then find a way to leverage that technology to push to your customers. What you have to do is lead by the value that you provide your customers, and find the technology that fits into that hole, right? And I just think that B2B right now, the way that RJ Taylor's talking is that he's talking about pushing technology on consumers or on his customers, as opposed to finding their value that they can find through mobile and then fitting in there. So I think this is great, because it'll keep guys like you and I working for quite some time when we try to help shape these B2B companies and bring them into the mobile world. But this is a good start.
Yeah.
It's a little late, but a good start. So ExactTarget.com.
There you go.
First three stories done. Our guest today is David Shalaby, who is the co-founder of TapTrack. I opened up with a question around the death of NFC, because iOS 7 just came out, and it has, we talked about this last week with iBeacon, and what does that do to NFC? Even though there's 500 million phones that are going to be, by the end of next year, that are going to be NFC enabled, what does that mean for NFC as a payment platform, as a future when the iPhone doesn't actually have it in it? And then we talk a little bit about TapTrack itself. I get a little bit of lowdown about what they do. So Dave Shalaby from TapTrack. My first question to you, though, David, is NFC dead? We've been hearing the rumor of its death, but nobody believes that anymore, do they?
Yeah, I think, rumors of its death are greatly exaggerated.
Nice.
I mean, it's no doubt that, Apple's continuing sort of non-adoption of the technology has set it back on the consumer front. I mean, unfortunately, NFC may live and die by payments, and that's sort of where iBeacon may disrupt things. So I mean, it's a bit slower coming now on the consumer side. Apple definitely is a bit of a something that's going to impede it a bit, but it doesn't mean that the technology is dead as far as not finding any applications at all. They just might not be the most consumer-facing applications.
Interesting, and that's what I want to get into, because everybody has been focused on that payment. NFC, if it fails, it's going to fail because it's not a payment platform, or it didn't get adopted as a payment platform. So I'm really interested to talk to you about the other applications of NFC, the stuff that isn't as sexy as payments, but the stuff that people are using it for today or will be using in the future. But before we do that, I got to know about TapTrack. Tell people about what you do. I got to understand also why get into the NFC fray. But first of all, what is TapTrack?
So TapTrack is sort of NFC platform as a service and solutions providers. So if you wanted to do an NFC web application, we give you the basic ingredients of the platform that you need.
So describe that. An NFC web application? Go ahead.
So, you tap a tag and you get either some content, offers. It could be something industrial like calibration information, maintenance history, facilities inspection history, all that type of stuff. And we give you basically a platform that facilitates the majority of the functionality you'll need, the redirecting, the gathering metrics, what type of phone, when they tapped, by whom and where, and all that good stuff. And then we allow you to modify it and customize it to your application. So we give you templates and the code examples and an API that you can plug into and then leverage the common functionality that we've developed perfectly for your application. So it's a platform as a service, and it also comes integrated with hardware. So you don't have to worry about third-party hardware tools. We integrate hardware. So tag reading, tag writing, tag encoding, even tag emulating can all be done through this integrated sort of one-stop system.
So give us a quick example of, before I even go there, I just love it. You're in Canada.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know how we know that? Because if you look over your right shoulder, there's a very prominent Tim Hortons cup in the background. I love it.
There you go. Can't get out of plugging Tim Hortons.
You're in Toronto, right? That's where you guys are. Yeah, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I love Canadian companies that are just, certainly innovating in this space. But so back to the story. I just had to bring that up because Tim Hortons. Yeah, my mouth is watering. So tell me, give me an example of something that, like the perfect example for you guys, to apply your technology to.
Well, a great example is maintenance equipment of maintenance, whether it be HVAC systems or test equipment, like meters and gauges. NFC can really solve the issue of having to carry around binders full of specs, but also not having the burden of having to look up. Am I looking at the right spec? Is this the maintenance history of this serial number or the other serial number? So it's found a home in sort of an industrial application there. And again, with TapTrack as a platform, as a service, we give you the basic ingredients. So think of it like a cake. We give you the base ingredients of the cake. You add the icing. Make it taste and look however you want. And maintenance is just one taste and one look to it. And because of the flexibility of the platform, it can easily suit that vertical without redesigning an entire product or having them redesign or implement the platform from scratch. So the typical use would be a piece of equipment comes in. The person in charge of maintaining it uses our integrated hardware and our software web platform, boom, encodes a tag in 1 second, puts it on the piece of equipment, and then immediately associates with it technical specs, user manual, calibration history, and whatever, and maybe who has it checked out. A lot of companies check things in, check things out. So it would be nice if you could just walk up to it, scan it, get all the recent specs and the specific calibration history of that specific piece of equipment. So that's one vertical where I think it's an elegant solution. The issue that it only reads at 3-4 centimeters, which is a feature, not a constraint, actually is leveraged in that scenario because I don't need the maintenance equipment of every piece of equipment I'm walking by. I just need the one that I'm working with there. And the other interesting part of it is there's no issue with consumer support, right? A B2B enterprise vertical will say, okay, here's the device. We'll train you how to use the device. And there's no issue of I don't know how to scan it. I don't know what to do with the technology. I don't know how to turn it on my phone. All that is handled in a highly vertical application. So that's really the bread and butter of TapTrack.
I love it. And this is assuming that the device has an NFC reader and, whatever it is, there's something affixed with an NFC tag on it, right? So you don't provide any of those things. You're the middleware between those two.
Exactly. Yeah. And you got to ask yourself the question, okay, now we have RFID-like technology in mobile phones.
Yep.
What segments, what use cases, what applications now become feasible that we don't have to buy an industrial grade RFID scanner for every single user? How can we leverage it existing? So that's just one great example, right? Where was there a case where that was the deal breaker was the cost of the additional readers?
Yes.
And now that that's integrated into a phone, which is then used in other applications in the enterprise, what customer segments can we address now?
That is David Shalaby, who is the co-founder of TapTrack. Great little company. One of the things that you'll see in the episode is that he's actually been accepted into this NFC incubator in Amsterdam. So he's leaving at the end of October to go to Amsterdam for 10 weeks, and we're going to do a little follow up while he's there. Pretty cool. So I thank David for allowing us to use that here, and of course being a part of Untether.tv.
Yeah, and just one comment on that, on sort of the notion of the death of NFC. One of the other things that came out this week was Google, who's been a big proponent, and Google Wallet in particular, with Android and based on NFC, basically has said, hey, we're seeing what Apple's doing, and we understand that the market is not obviously at this point going to be going all NFC. So they basically announced that Google Wallet will now be available on iOS and on all devices. So it just says and further comes down to that idea that we're not ready for one single technology yet, and certainly not going to be NFC.
No, what's funny is that throughout the conversation with David, we talk about these closed loop payment systems, which is basically iTunes or PayPal, and same thing with Chuck Martin on a couple of these upcoming Mobile Minutes. We talk about these things. Is that I just don't understand the simplicity of the closed loop systems like iTunes and PayPal. Make it very easy to do your payments right now without any technology. And I think that
exactly
we throw technology in for technology's sake, and it confuses the issues. So fascinating times we live in, but that's a big move by Google to kind of disengage from NFC and bring it over to iOS. They understand. They need to do that.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see, and I'll try and get one of these guys on the show shortly. But I'd love to hear what the ISIS guys have to say now.
Well, they lost. Who did they lose?
US,
they lose Citibank?
Which is, so this is the big carrier consortium in the U.S. that was completely based on NFC. So let's see where that goes. And
but ISIS just lost. I think it was Citibank that just pulled out of ISIS, wasn't it? So
I don't know.
Yeah, it's all falling apart.
Hey man, I do miss a few things when I'm on the road. Just so we're clear, okay?
I don't even know how you keep up with anything while you're on the road, man. That's all right. So that was if you're interested in this, if you have any comments about what you think about the NFC, if you have any questions about NFC, please reach out, rob@untether.tv or cf@thelbma.com or through the various Twitter or any other way that you can do it. We'd appreciate your comments on that. Back at the stories, man.
All right.
Number 4.
All right, number 4. So this is a Canadian story. DMTI Spatial, a big location intelligence company based here in Toronto, has partnered with the Electrical Safety Authority. So this is another good B2B story. It seems to be like we're on the B2B show today. And so the ESA is basically using DMTI's location hub platform on two fronts. One is to help find local licensed electrical contractors, through this system. So it's a location-based lookup, service for finding these guys, through the internet, through their website, through mobile, mobile browsing and all that kind of stuff. But the other piece of this too is it's also they're using the same technology on the back end in the call center as well. So even if you can't get online, like your electricity's down and you can't get on the internet, and you need a contractor, you can call these guys and they can find you a local contractor from the call center side using the same platform. So they've got this back end system basically that's all about GPS data and location targeting to find this contractor when you need one. So this is just a simple but effective, I think, use case of how you can leverage location in a good B2B way.
Go Canada, DMTIspatial.com. I like that story. Simple, right? Simple and effective.
Simple wins, man.
Yeah, I know. Don't complicate stuff. Don't think and project what you want. Just provide a service that the people that you're trying to service want, and that's what DMTI does. I like that. ESA. Right. So if you're interested, DMTI Spatial, or you just do a Google search for Electrical Safety Authority, and you'll find stories.
And there's so many other applications like this: insurance adjusters,
doctors,
all this kind of thing. Yeah, it just makes sense. Yeah. But couriers, no.
Well, you know what? They probably could do it. They could do it better, and they wouldn't charge you.
Yeah. Anyways.
Okay, so from a great story, Canadian story, to this. This is the launch of something called SpeakGeo, and I'm going to do my best to describe this. This is our 5th story. This is a Canadian company. It's based out of Toronto, but this is a location-based, I don't know, complaints department is the way that it's the way it's described, in my opinion. picture this. You're walking down the street and you see, this is how they describe it, a kind of a dilapidated old house. There's garbage on the street, and it's basically, as the founder said, it's like a crack house, and you want to complain to somebody. So you launch the app SpeakGeo and you tag its location, and then you create basically a complaint, and it goes to the appropriate city hall official or government official, and you can create petitions, and you can, then what happens is it can get rerouted by a letter, so your complaint can be dropped off in the mailbox of the house that you're complaining against or the business you're complaining against. And so this is supposed to be basically changing the world kind of one location at a time. And I'm kind of speechless with this, is that, this is something that can never work, will never work, because you've got such huge social networks like Facebook and Twitter that will take care of these things. And there's a process in government that takes care of these things in your city. And the last thing, like we did this, right? We were cleaning out my mother's basement. We had this garbage that accumulates with a lifetime of basement dwelling, basically, and we put it out on the front. And we put it out 2 days prior to Garbage Day last week, and we got a written citation from the city of Ottawa saying, "Hey, listen, you put your garbage out too soon." I didn't know they did that, but it was a warning. So there are things that if there's a crack house in the city, I'm pretty damn sure if you know about it, the cops know about it, the city knows about it. This just seems like the most ridiculous thing to build. And then he goes out and says, first of all, he doesn't launch it in Canada. He launches it in Washington, has a huge press gathering, and I don't know what huge means, but he did it in Washington, announcing that, hey, listen, I can easily get funding from the traditional Silicon Valley venture capitalists for bringing my product to market, but I wanted to first give the average Joe for whom this site was created an opportunity to participate in its successes. And after 4 days, as of this morning, he's raised a total of $497. This is a ridiculous idea.
All of which he spent on his flight to Washington and back to launch this thing.
This is a ridiculous idea. This is just something that the guy does not understand what this platform is enabling to do. And the idea that he's trying to build a social network about complaints, the city already has this stuff. Everybody's already doing this stuff. Get out of this. I don't get this.
I'm right with you, and I hate to slam a fellow Torontonian, Sumit Mehta, the guy who's behind this thing. But yeah, I mean, what do you think Facebook and Twitter and Ushahidi and all these other things we've talked about that are about citizen engagement and connecting to large social networks and creating drawing attention to causes and iReport at CNN and all these things that exist that are funded,
yes,
big companies behind them, governments behind them. And you're going out saying, "Hey, the average Joe is going to fund this thing because," and you could, no. I mean, come on, man. This is not going to work. I'm sorry. This is just, yeah.
But then Asif, I'm thinking about this out loud, and then I think, hey, listen, a courier company just got $2.25 million.
Go talk to those guys. Go talk to Chicago Ventures.
They'll be like, "Oh, it is a courier company. We need something that's innovative and that's never been done on Kickstarter before."
Maybe they could get each of the couriers to install this app, and the couriers could be the ones telling you where the crack houses are.
I'm writing down this idea. See, there's got to be something that comes of this, right?
Yeah.
If you're interested in this, go to SpeakGeo. There's a video. I was going to play it, but it's just not even worth it because it's a dumb idea. And this is our opinion.
I mean,
of course.
He talks about it here. Here in the press release, it says, as the capacity of the technology is improved and expand, it will offer its users the options to register to vote, link organizations sharing affiliated goals, make political contributions, and even launch acts of civil disobedience if that is the final recourse. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, first of all,
he went from crack house to Syria. Yeah,
people don't vote. Yeah. Number one, right? Like, voter turnout is terrible. Like in North America, like it just doesn't happen. And the political parties and the candidates are out doing their best to make this happen. So, that ain't gonna happen. Organizations sharing affiliated goals. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Like unions? Like, what are you talking about, man? Like, I don't know.
You know what? I'm gonna let's organize a civil disobedience rally against this application. And for you who have contributed $497 to this on Kickstarter, stop listening to the show.
Come on, we know who that is, right? Mom, Dad, and
yeah.
No,
stop listening to the show.
Yeah.
My goodness. Okay, launch. That's it. SpeakGeo.com. We will never speak of that until it goes bankrupt, and then we will have a civil disobedience.
Yeah.
All right.
And if somehow this thing happens, Rob,
Yeah, I quit.
yeah,
quit.
I will eat a deep fried Mars bar.
I am out. Hey, for the deep fried Mars bar. One thing, I went to basically a smoke shack, right, which is a big barbecue, southern barbecue, which is cropping up everywhere. I swear to God, I had the best thing ever received. And I have to tell you this, it was I'm not a macaroni and cheese. I'm not a deep fried guy, but macaroni and cheese balls. They're macaroni and cheese, breaded and deep fried. If you've never had that,
yeah, I've had it.
Oh my God,
crazy
heaven. All right, I'll eat one of those. But if this thing actually takes off, I quit. I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into gardening. All right. Yep. Our last story, if you can believe this, and then I have one that I want to talk about right after this. So I'm going to add a seventh story spontaneously, and it's a good story because I'd like to end on a good story. So why don't you talk about Intersec partnering with Weve, and then I'm going to bring up my last story.
Yeah, so this is another sort of B2B deal between two companies. So Intersec is a Paris-based network location service provider. So they're kind of a little bit like Placecast in some respects with some of the functionality they have. And they partner with Weve, which is what used to be Project Oscar in the UK, became Weve, which is effectively the ISIS of the UK. This is the carrier consortium around consumer engagement for those who are on Everything Everywhere, O2 and Vodafone in the UK. So collectively 17 million opted-in customers across that network today. And this is about enabling geo-targeted SMS. And I think the story here is that network was powered by Placecast, and now it's powered by Intersec.
Yeah.
So they're making a shift here, I think this is about kind of being closer to home a little bit for those guys, and I think I think there's some interesting functionality changes in the way that Weve's going about their operations. Originally, that platform, like ISIS, was centered on payments. Everybody understands that the consumer market isn't ready for that yet, and so what they do want though is deals and coupons over this network in an opted-in framework where I say I care about this brand or I care about this particular category. Those are the things I want to hear about. So this is really just a change in back-end technology platform for Weve, and I don't know whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, but
Recognizing that the consumers aren't ready for the payments world right now, and it's so scattered, it's so fragmented, and I think this is probably a good move to pull back a little bit and get people used to engaging in this way, and then you can start to bring in payments at a later date, right? Like there's a natural evolution of this, and everybody seemed to just go right to payments. And then it just got so confusing for the consumer, and they pulled back. So I think that this is probably a good way of doing it. And I think that that's interesting about Intersec replacing Placecast. I think that maybe that's a little bit of nationalism, which is fine. But I think that's the big story here, as you said. So those two pieces, right? The fact that they're pulling away from payments and they're exchanging technology partners. Oh, I like that.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. So my seventh story here, Steve, before we get to the resource, is about Bump. Right, we've talked about Bump many times, and Dave Lieb, he's been on Tether.tv a couple of times. And
little acquisition this week.
Yeah, and I like this. Like, I have a huge man crush on Dave Lieb because he's one of the smartest guys around this, and he talks about cognitive overload and the thinking that goes into his applications about removing that from a human perspective is that you got to make things very simple in the user interface, the experience, and the way that it interacts, and you can hide the complexity in a Bump. And everybody thought it was Bluetooth, and I mean, this is it's a very complex problem that he was trying to solve by just kind of with the mandate of removing cognitive overload, making us stop thinking about how we use these tools. So Dave is a great mind, and I think that this acquisition by Google, we don't know what's going to happen to Bump or his new app Flock, his photo sharing app, but Dave's mind is absolutely perfect for Google. I think that it's a missing link in the Google chink, and I absolutely believe this is, whether it was $30 million or $60 million for the acquisition, it doesn't matter. What Google got was Dave Lieb and the mind. And for me, that is a huge win for Google, a huge loss for everybody else who didn't manage to secure Dave's services. And I mean, that's an Andreessen Horowitz funded company, another exit for those guys. But huge congratulations for Dave. But I think that having him in Google will absolutely, I mean, my respect for Google has already risen as a result of them bringing on Dave. So congratulations there. And who knows what happens to the app? But really, it's a huge loss to the entrepreneurial community, but a huge gain for Google to get Dave. Wicked awesome. So congrats there. That's all I wanted to say. I have to leave this with a positive note, and that's a good news for a good guy and a good team. And I think that Andreessen Horowitz made a couple of bucks.
Yeah,
whatever.
Those guys.
All right, those are the 7 stories. This was a harsh episode, I think, for some people. And if you disagree or you agree, we'd love to hear from you. So reach out, Rob@untethered.tv or Seif@thelbma.com or at SeifRCon on Twitter or at Rob Woodbridge on Twitter. We got one last piece, which is a good news story. We love case studies. I love showing how companies are leveraging location and mobile inside of stores. And here's Lowe's doing that exact thing, which is wicked.
Yeah, this is awesome. So, first of all, our friends over at Street Fight pulled this one together. So, thanks to them for
Stephanie Miles,
for doing that.
Yeah.
So Lowe's, they had a conversation with Sean Bartlett, who's the head of mobile strategy over there and platforms at Lowe's, and they basically added a whole bunch of location-based features to their app. This is a retail organization that believes that mobile is key to their business, that believes that consumers are gravitating towards that, and they wanted to leverage some of the functionality. So there's a stat in here: 39% of shoppers now using smartphones and tablets to research products and compare prices in store. Which is kind of interesting. But one of the things that they've added in here is that when you launch the app, you can select your home location, like your closest Lowe's store. And then you can basically find product, down to the inventory level by shelf and aisle number. So it tells you exactly where to go in the store to find what you're looking for. And for me, this is interesting because, I was at a conference a few weeks ago, local search conference, the Kelsey conference, down in Austin, and I was talking to a bunch of the guys that are in the click to call and call analytics industries and all that kind of stuff, and they were talking about the value. One of the value propositions that they see as kind of key to their business is people don't typically just walk into we're busy people. We don't typically just walk into a Home Depot or a Lowe's
and browse
and wander around. We go to these places because we need something. Like there's a we need to buy light bulbs, or we need to buy a drill bit, or we need to buy whatever it is. And what we can't afford is to simply drive up to the place to find out that they don't have the thing that we need. And so click to call, as the guy was telling me, is useful because, if I can just click on the, if I can search for the thing I'm looking for online, and then I can just click and it connects me to the guy in the store to say, hey, do you actually have that thing in stock? And I can get an answer. It saves me a trip if they don't. And this is, in some respects, takes that step out of the process because you can it's direct connection to the inventory. It's telling you exactly where where that stuff is in the store and if it's available or not, without having to do any local search. I mean, it's just it's the branded app. So I like this. I think this makes a ton of sense. And he was saying 20% of their overall traffic now at Lowe's is mobile, which is I think is a pretty big number.
Yeah. And what he said. So Sean said this. He said the ability to see the customer's trip to the store, whether it is planning or starting to use the location features in the store, is important. Anything we can do to make it more efficient, And I think that what I found very interesting was this: that the ability to see the customer's trip to the store. So here's an app that as you said, you build the list of the things that you need in the app, and then when you get to the store, it kind of points you in the direction of where it would be. But it's in the building the trip to the store, and I think that they can expand on that in an incredible way, like pre-ordering. So you just basically click and it's your order's there for pickup, or having somebody like even customer service, right? Having somebody when you walk in notify that Rob's here, little creepy, but you sign up for the service, and there's a greeter at the door that will walk you through the store to be able to get you the stuff stuff that you need. Like I'm not a handyman, I try, but like I don't know the difference between certain types of woods or nails and so it would be great if I could have a guided tour, like a schedule. Like when I walk in, I've got a 2:00 appointment, and they're going to walk me through the store to get the things that I need in order to do those things. So there's huge layers of service that if you know, like precog, if you know what I'm there for, what I'm coming in for, there's a huge opportunity to over-service me, right? And I think that is the key, especially with these faceless, nameless stores, big box stores like that. And I like this. The great summary by Stephanie Miles, who wrote this, the associate editor at Street Fight, said the features that Lowe's has introduced as part of its latest mobile app upgrade are helping the retailer combat showrooming without falling back on discounts or coupons, which we hate. Proving that hyperlocal features can provide a significant return on investment regardless of the size of the retailer. And I echo that wholeheartedly, and I think that they're getting it, and I think that this is the first step. So kudos to Sean. Great case study up on Street Fight. If you have an opportunity to go and read it, there's a link in my show notes, and there's probably a link in Asif's as well. So please go and support those guys. Great partners of ours, but also we love bringing these success stories. Wicked.
Awesome.
That's it.
148 in the books.
Yeah, I feel cleansed, right? I feel like, look, I got a whole bunch of bad chi out, and next episode's going to be all positive, right? No guarantees.
No guarantees.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
That is it. We'll be back for episode number 149 next week. Asif, as you collect your air miles, we appreciate the effort that you do, becoming the Lord of Location, the ambassador for this industry, and please travel safe this week. How's that?
Thanks, Rob. And a quick shout out too, to some of our new members this week.
Please.
The Indoor Atlas guys we talked about before. They're on board. Alliance Data became a member of the LBMA this week. The big loyalty platform company that runs air miles and all that kind of stuff around the world. I like it because I collect those things. We're Snap Trends, which is a company that is doing some pretty crazy location analytics around events, kind of like Venue Labs, Moment Feed, all that kind of stuff. So welcome to the LBMA, guys.
Welcome. We're also accepting sponsorships for this podcast.
Yes,
should you choose. It's not a requirement, but it would always be.
We won't be getting any from Zipments. I'll tell you that.
No.
Yeah.
No, and it's okay. We wouldn't take that because he's got $497 less the.
That's not. Yeah, that's SpeakGeo though.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
Anyways,
both of those guys.
Right.
We've ruined our opportunities. Oh well.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week for the next episode 149. Have a safe week, Asif, and thank you all for watching or listening wherever you are. We appreciate your time and effort. And you have a moment, you can go in and rate us inside of iTunes or wherever you got this podcast. Leave a comment. We'll read it on the air. We appreciate it very much. Asif, until next time. See you later, everybody.